volunteering, a win-win for corporates and communities. This webinar is being organized as part of the India at 100 Foundation's National Volunteering Week, which is currently ongoing from the 18th to the 24th of Jan. For your information, this is the 12th edition of the foundation. As many of you would know that the India at 75 Foundation of CII has transitioned now into a more futuristic vision for the country for an inclusive and developed India in 2047. And we are now called as the India at 100 Foundation. It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for the session, Mr. Salab Shahai, co-founder and director of iVolunteer, India's largest social enterprise for formal volunteering. Shalab is a pioneer in the social impact space. He has launched several transformative programs like the India Fellow and the GSW Foundation Fellowship, to name a few, focusing on the youth leadership and rural volunteering and development. Shalab is also part of the CII Council of India at 100 and the Global Pro Bono Network. On behalf of everyone who are joining us today, thank you, Shalab, for accepting our invite to moderate the session. And it's over to you. Please take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Aparna, and welcome everyone again on behalf of iVolunteer CII India at 100. As fields of HR and CSR come of age in the country and increasingly become core to the business of doing business, I believe the role of employees as stakeholders in both the business and the community where we do business is increasingly being acknowledged. So I believe that this webinar, which focuses on institutionalizing volunteering as part of the corporate culture, is something which is pertinent. And what we'll try and do in this webinar is to go beyond the regular form of corporate volunteering, where we look at only the impact outside. We'll try and see how is it that volunteering can also impact the individual and the corporate or the company or the organization supporting the individual. In doing so, I believe that this is not just what we learn and share over here is not just important for the corporate sector, but also for any form of organization, whether it's a government organization or a non-profit organization, because volunteers can exist everywhere. Just to briefly say that at iVolunteer, our belief is that the only lasting change is the change in the individual. And volunteering is probably one of the key ways in we can change an individual. So with that, let me introduce the panelists that we have. So first, I'm going to introduce Padma. Padma Rajeshwari Tata is an HR leader, presently the group head for organizational effectiveness and HR transformation at the Aditya Birla Group. Padma is also director of Aditya Birla Center for Enriching Lives. And in an earlier avatar has worked with organizations like Dr. Reddy's, Flextronics, Infosys, and L&T. Next, we have Sakina. Welcome, Sakina. Sakina leads CSR at Bosch Limited and also leads the Bosch India Foundation. Sakina has also earlier headed and played several roles at CSR in Philips, in Bharti Airtel, in Fortis Healthcare. So again, multiple companies, but also Sakina, before moving to the corporate sector, had a voluntary sector experience working with organizations like Vani and Katha. Sakina has also been a Commonwealth Professional Fellow, something I shared with her, and we just realized it when we spoke 2 days back. And she's also and she's also part of the Aspire Circle. Next, we have Gauri. Gauri, welcome. And Gauri Rajadhyaksh is the Deputy General Manager of Community Service and leads the volunteering portfolio at the Tata Sustainability Group. In that role, Gauri is responsible for driving volunteering strategy and capacity building across the Tata Group, and also manages the Tata Engage, which is the flagship volunteering program for the Tata Group. Abhishek is next. Hi, Abhishek. Welcome again. Abhishek Jain heads employee volunteering for the Reliance Foundation and is responsible for driving social impact by enabling employee volunteering across the Reliance Group companies. Earlier, Abhishek has worked with global entities like Cognizant and has also played the role of chair of affirmative action and CSR panel for CII in Pune. So thank you again. Abhishek, Sakina, Padma, Gauri, thank you for agreeing to be a part of this panel. I'm really looking forward to the discussion that we have over here. And I want to begin in the reverse order of, not necessarily reverse order, but I introduced Abhishek last week. Abhishek, I want to begin with you also because I know, Abhishek, that you have been a very keen volunteer throughout your life. And you've shared that story with me. So I want to share, your experience as a volunteer, because let's focus on the volunteer as we begin the webinar. Let's focus on the volunteer. Uh, what was their experience like, and how do you relate it to as an employee before we move to the other functions of CSR, employee volunteering, and corporate volunteering? So Abhishek, yeah, you
Sure.
can unmute yourself.
Yeah. I hope I'm audible, Shalab, right? Yeah.
Yes, very much.
Great. So thank you for having me here, CI and Shalab. I think very happy to share my story also. Let me begin with that. I actually grew up in a very small town, in Ajmer district in Rajasthan, and there, frankly speaking, there not much social disparity to see. We all studied in the same government school, and everybody used to live together in that sense. The only volunteering, if I can say so, used to happen was in community gatherings where you used to serve meals and things like that, right? But then after I did my engineering and joined my previous employer, uh, you know one NGO was called to demonstrate about their work during one of the volunteer recruitment drives. And that is where I realized, that, hey, this is, there is so much of disparity in the communities, and, so much which needs to be done. And I really felt moved. I remember having tears in my eyes that time, and then decided that I am going to sign up as a volunteer, right away. And I started volunteering pretty much every week. And this is about, I'm talking about in 2008, and that's where, truly speaking, Shalab, my journey started as volunteer. So started volunteering there. I was in Chennai then and didn't know Tamil, so used to think, what people used to think, what can I do in a school? I used to volunteer in a school there, so I used to do pretty much everything else except for teaching. Right, that's how I started. So I started, organizing events, and soon. I was, called to become the lead of one of the verticals in that organization. So I started leading the volunteering groups there, organizing event, conducting orientations and things like that. So suddenly I started seeing a different side of my personality being, explored, right from a techie to a, somebody who is actually communicating with so many people, and telling them to go and do something for the community, for the society. So it was very very encouraging to see. In the process, we met a lot of leaders whom in traditional work life you would not even think of meeting. We were getting exposure to them and things like that, right? And soon, looking at my commitment and consistency, I was actually offered a role as a full-time employee for the volunteering program. And as you know, it was not this was in 2011, if I'd say. It was, and it was not so easy for somebody to transition from a tech to a, a non-tech kind of a field. So I initially declined. I said, no, I'm not I'm not going to join this. So then I went to the US, and then when I was there, I started thinking that, I would say that the giving, the feeling of giving back to the country, to India, grew upon me. So then I started thinking that, what is that I want to do in life, right? That's where I firmly decided that now I'm actually going to do something in the space of volunteering, because that's what I knew what to do in the social sector, and started working there. So then called my manager that back then, saying that I want to join this, and is there any opening available? So they said there is something available in Pune, and then I decided, yes, great. So I came back to India for doing this volunteering role. Started something in Pune, and then soon started grew the program of the previous employer from 2 countries to about 25 countries where the volunteering started happening. And now I'm here, driving volunteerism for one of the largest corporates in the country. So it's been a truly transformative journey for me. I have learned a lot, how people feel, how well-being is related to we giving back to the community everywhere. So yeah, it's been a fascinating journey, Shalab.
Thanks, Abhishek. So then moving from there, to the Tata Group, and Gauri, the Tata Group again is a long-standing name when it comes to social initiative, social responsibility, long before CSR came into place. So how is it that, in the modern form, have you looked at, while Tata Group was doing a lot of things, but probably the policy came in much later. This volunteering initiative has come in much later. So how did this volunteering initiative, which is currently there in Tata's, how did this kind of take place or in the overall Tata system? So please do share us.
Thanks, Shalab. It feels wonderful to be here with Abhishek, Sakina, and Padma. So I think your question sort of when you started asking the question, you talked about the legacy, and people would be aware of the fact that over 150 years now that the seeds of keeping the community central or focusing on nation building were sown by our founding fathers, right? That's a long time ago. And since then, the legacy has remained alive through the people, the employees who have continued generation after generation at the Tata Group, right? So even today, we have 66% of the shareholding of Tata Sons, which is with Tata Trusts, which looks at very large scale impactful projects with the community. We have CSR programs that different group companies run, like you referred to. But one of the avenues where we really feel that our founding fathers' legacy of keeping community central is alive today is volunteering, and today the group has over 1 million plus employees. So we have 1 million colleagues globally. And over the years, volunteering has always happened. Perhaps it was being done in different groups in different locations. And on a scale perspective, we knew that we were clocking over 1 million hours. So it's not a small number. But one thought through what is it that this combined power of 1 million employees can really do when we talk of change and impacting communities. And I think that's where what you refer to as the more structured form of volunteering, right, or the more organized form of volunteering, the way it exists today, sort of was put into place. And this is about over a decade ago. In that form, for us, given that we are over 100 companies, we have a global presence across 100 countries. We have a very diverse employee base. The need was obviously felt to have something which was multitudinal, something which was very, very diverse, something which would offer to match the aspirations of different employee cohorts. And that's where, we have a very layered program at the group level. We have something called the Tata Engage. Within that, there are 3 distinct formats in which we offer volunteering. One is the very easy to do, fun group. We call it the initiator to volunteering for people who may not have experienced it. It's called the Tata Volunteering Week. It's like a fiesta. It's like a festival, and it's great fun. There's a more serious kind of skill-based volunteering where people commit to give back the best of the skills that they're experts at and help not-for-profits on different projects. And there's volunteering for disaster response. But while this happens at the group level, what has happened in the recent, let's say, decade or so, is that the diverse group companies have all looked at a company level volunteering program, which is very, very niche, something which, suits their business context, something that, answers the aspirations of their employee cohort, something that's a little more local, a little more relevant. And across the group, we have all companies who have, for example, TCS has something called Hope, which is Hours of Purpose. IHCL has something called Pathya. Infinity Retail, which looks after Chroma, the electronic retail brand is looking at championing in electronic waste. So they have a e-waste warriors program. So that's really the vibrancy that the Tata Group program has at the moment. And the last bit I want to add is this was actually something that happened during COVID, when we were all forced to be at home and everything came to a standstill. That was perhaps the time when the needs of the community were at the highest, and the need for volunteers was really felt. That's when the whole concept of employees own initiatives was something that was introduced, and the idea was very simple: to democratize volunteering. If there is an employee who's based in a particular place, has a local need, has a local solution and wants to go and volunteer, I think the company should allow the employee to do that and sort of enable them in whatever way possible. And this is something that has really made it easy to do, and also ensure that when you work with 1 million people and you have to worry about 1 million aspirations, I think some bit of the pressure is off us. So it's like, you can pick a cause that your heart beats for and go ahead and volunteer. So that's really where we are, Shala. Back to you.
Thanks, Gauri. And so I'll kind of take this cue to move from a very well-known Indian group to a very well-known international group. So I'll come to Bosch. So Sakina, this question is for you, obviously. So you moved to Bosch, I think, about 3 years back or something. So three and a half years back, right? So what is the context in which you took over the role leading CSR at and also the Bosch Foundation? And building a culture of volunteering in a new setup that you were just a part of. And if you can think back on, reflect on your experience also as a nonprofit leader much earlier, how does that change anything, the way you look at things?
Thanks, Shalab, for this question, because normally I don't remember the reason why I had joined Bosch after 3 years. But to be very honest, Bosch was a totally different experience for me, because I have been either part of the nonprofit sector or I have worked as CSR leads for corporates, Indian and multinational. But Bosch assignment was a dual assignment for me, because I was going to lead a CSR vertical within Bosch, and I was also going to lead Bosch India Foundation, which is a non-profit organization. So I think the interest arrived because of the dual roles that I had. Because I wanted to see what, obviously I was working on CSR so far, and the foundation gave me an edge of working on things that cannot be done through CSR. Some things that are from heart, you want to do it, but CSR compliance put a restriction on it. You're not able to really work on it, despite it being a very pressing need at that time. So for me, that was, I think, a very clear reason why I came to Bosch. And the other reason was, like Gauri mentioned about Tata, the shareholding of Tata Sons of 66% with Tata Trust. Similarly, in Bosch, it's 94% with Bosch Foundation based out of Germany. So you can understand the similarity in terms of the values of the organization and how much, preference they give to be engaged with the community over a large period of time, or the multiple countries that they are present in. So for me, these two reasons were enough to join an organization like Bosch. And when I came in, obviously, it was very evident that I have joined the right organization who has the heart at the right place, because the kind of leverage that they gave, importance that they gave to social engagement was immense. Now, the social engagement was nothing to do with only the 2%. They could have spent the 2% and then been done with it. But it's with the foundation, they want to do much more. And additionally, with an organization called Primavera, which started at global level by the employees of Bosch to invest their funds towards social causes across different countries where the need is very high. So following that, we set up Primavera India in Bosch itself. It's also a non-profit organization which is run and driven by employees. It has nothing to do with the funding given by the corporate. It is funded by the employees. It is driven, operated by employees. So it was an amazing concept. When you look at the CSR, you look at Bosch India Foundation, you look at Primavera, all three different verticals, but together working for a similar cause. So I didn't have to go anywhere else to see what more can we do, because there's so much there already within the organization that it gives you a plate full of opportunities to work on. Definitely one thing which about the question about difference between non-profit and for-profit, immense, because in non-profit everybody is working in the same direction. In for-profit you are working in one direction, they're all working in the different direction, but somehow there is a synergy when it comes to providing opportunities through volunteering to employees who are working for the business, but their heart is also, connected to the certain causes that the organization runs or promotes. So for me, that's extremely important. Addition to what I used to do in my voluntary sector, obviously that work is also very important. I have due respect for all the non-profit organizations working extensively for the social welfare in the country, and I think majority of our government programs are implemented through them. So I also believe that even CSR is dependent on them for the delivery of the programs through them. So for me, it's very important to see that while I may not be a part of the non-profit sector, but I'm still working with the non-profit sector extensively, and also looking at how do we, beyond CSR funding on certain projects, build their capabilities. So that becomes our volunteering effort for them, where we know that non-profit sector or the partners or NGOs that we don't work with, we help them govern their organization better, and do workshops and initiatives for them, so that their capacity is also built, and it's not just funding which we are giving to them. So more or less, if you look at our approach within the organization, it's very clear from the lower level to the management level to the board level. Sakina, last mile has to be reached, last penny has to go to them, and I totally believe that I'm in the right organization at the right time, which has the right mindset, not only for volunteering but also ensuring that they are investing enough for employees to stay connected to the causes that interest them, where they have an expertise which they can share, and also making sure that their leadership is somehow or the other connected to multiple causes, so that they understand what it means to stay socially engaged. Over to you, Sharad.
Thanks, thanks, Sakina. So obviously, Padma, my next question is to you. But given that your role at the Aditya Birla Group is more to do with leading HR transformation, organizational effectiveness, it is not about CSR. It is not about employee volunteering. So in that context, how do you see employee volunteering, and which is why I wanted to address this last to you, bring out that different perspective.
Absolutely. So, I do not take care of CSR. We have Dr. Pragya Ram. I'm sure, you would have heard about her. She's the one who takes care of CSR for Aditya Birla Group. And of course, each business has people who take care of CSR, but they work very closely with Dr. Ram. Where I guess, for me, it is more around energizing, engaging employees. And Abhishek, you spoke about the emotional well-being of employees, connect for employees in what they are doing, going beyond their regular work is what really comes into my area of work, because more and more employees really want to give back to the society. So about 3 or 4 years back, when we did a quick survey with our employees to check as to how keen they are in volunteering, we realized that many employees are already volunteering on their own, right? And of course, it didn't come as a surprise to us, because ABG as an organization like Tata's, Bosch, Reliance that we spoke of is very focused on giving back to the society. And obviously you have employees who are connected in their values and keen to give back. We had certain programs like our leadership programs, where people go to a very remote location and give back to the community. But this was really an eye opener, wherein a good 70% of the employees or 75% of the employees said that they are already volunteering in some tiny way, some said in a big way, and they all wanted support from ABG to volunteer, right? Now, given an element of social desirability, when you ask people, are you keen to volunteer? I guess many people wouldn't say that, we are not interested. So, given social desirability also of the responses, we were convinced that a good 50% are keen. And Gauri, we also, when you were speaking about the Tata program, Engage, etc., we had actually, spoken to some of your people to understand what's the kind of employee volunteering which is offered. So based on that, we are in a very focused manner, we are leveraging employees to provide support. One is, for example, we have something called the AVU Foundation, a World of Opportunities Foundation, wherein we ask employees to contribute money, and that is used to provide education to the children of our workmen and also people from underprivileged backgrounds. So that is one. And we have extended it to now our Gen Z employees mentoring these students, So if I try to mentor, it wouldn't work because the age gap is too much. Whereas when we have the Gen Z employees who are still in their 26, 25, that age group, they in turn are mentoring, handholding the students of the ABU scholars, right? And that's really working very, very well. And the second thing is, mass volunteering, wherein, 200, 300 people come together, volunteer for a certain cause. The kind of social bonding which has happened between people is tremendous from these volunteering. And of course, the satisfaction that I have done something, be it educating students, in a village or beach cleaning, those are typically the one day kind of intervention. The last one that we did with I Volunteer, last year is something which really was very, very gratifying. We know that IBM does something like this. We invited our employees to self-nominate themselves to volunteer for, anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks with their manager's permission. And to be honest with you, we weren't sure whether we will how many people will self-nominate, right? Because you will be out away from work for 3 weeks, and that's a lot of time. And that too, managers agreeing that, yes, you can go ahead. And we had some 100, and we launched this only in India. We had about 150 odd employees self-volunteering to volunteer to specific causes. All the projects were curated, and out of those 150, each and every one was either a solid performer or a high performer, so it's not as though people who have nothing better to do in life are saying that we want to do. These are the people who were very keen, and I Volunteer team helped us in one, curating the project, and also out of the 150 people, we knew that we can't send everybody for volunteering, so we had about 16 projects where we handpicked people, who we were present, but most of the interviewing was done by I Volunteer because we didn't want people to feel that, oh, there was any partiality which was done. Because there were multiple questions which came to us saying, why was I not picked for volunteering? And what can I do next time to make sure that I get picked for volunteering? So I think the whole experience was very, very gratifying. And for the participants, they really enjoyed. And many of them, their managers come back and say that, I see a significant difference in people. I guess, each one of you spoke about it that, Abhishek, I think you spoke about changing people. And I guess, people change only when they want to change. And there are even small actions, like one of the ladies, she said that I've stopped taking showers. I use bucket and, mug the way, at least in my generation, we used to do. I'm also from a small town. There was no question of a shower, right? A typical Indian bathroom used to be a bucket and a mug. And you use so much lesser water as compared to when you are standing under the shower. So extremely gratifying experience. We are calling it the deep volunteering, both for the people, for us, and for the managers, and of course for the organization as well. And we plan to continue that over and above, of course, the regular 1 day, 2 day kind of employee volunteering. So just a snapshot, Shalab. Happy to respond to any other question.
So thanks, Padma. And I remember that, our team who was working on this project, we were also expecting a few dozen people to apply. And then we got 150 applications. Actually, we were thinking ki, how will we manage 150, to selection? So I think it was a welcome surprise, a pleasant surprise as well. But I want to also pick on this thing about, the well-being which has come twice now. Abhishek mentioned that, and Padma, you also mentioned that. And I want to take this to a third speaker. So Gauri, I'm aware of the Tada group in some ways, trying to understand the well-being through volunteering. There's some study, something that you're taking up. So please tell us more about, how are you as a group looking at understanding the gains or learnings that are accrued to volunteering in a more structured fashion?
Sure, Shalab. So a lot of what Padma was, talking about just now was resonating with me, and I wanted to, we were looking for a word to help us describe what is it that volunteering gives us. And we had an interaction with a very, young individual from Australia who said it helps us in a concept called mattering. She said, in today's day and age, where we live fast-paced lives and we live technology-enabled, lives. Volunteering is one of those, areas which really makes you feel that your existence is important, and what you can achieve through that is manifold. So that was something that really stuck with us. But at an organizational level, Shalab, we know anecdotally that volunteering has a lot of impact, and it's not only on the communities and the NGO that you work with, but on the employees, on our colleagues, on our volunteers to the core. And through a lot of the feedback mechanisms that we have, and we have a range of programs, we've heard people come back to say that I come back to work more productive. I enjoy my family time more. I feel very grateful for what I have in life. Some of them have come back to say, I never thought I would get to volunteer and sit side by side with a very senior leader. वो मतलब सपने भी नहीं में नहीं था, but actually it was such a fulfilling experience to just see them volunteer as well. So it's been very, very diverse. For us, honestly, Shala, we are now looking at an empirical study. So we know that there's a wide-ranging benefit, but we want to see if just because we have a million colleagues, if we can do this study at scale and it helps us through some sort of scientific insights. It'll be interesting for us also to dovetail in sort of understanding which of our projects are helping people find their purpose, or and for us to strengthen those programs, but also as a piece for us to share with others who are interested in similar subjects. So it's a journey, really. We're at a very nascent stage, but we hope to pick up steam early next year.
Thanks, Gauri. And I think early nascent stage, there's a couple of such pilots that are kind of, focusing a lot. Traditionally, a lot of volunteering-based studies and gains from volunteering always comes from the West. So I'm really happy to see that, in India as well, companies, organizations, associations are beginning to document this, understand it more from our socio-economic perspective. At I Volunteer also, we've started doing something called as a transformation index, so a Volunteer Transformation Index, VTI. Again, we are trying to get a motley group of people from different sector, academicians, corporate people, HR people, consultants to kind of help us put together something of that nature. And hope, just like you hope that, hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have something much more structured to share, and that will help us power it forward. So, yeah, so from this, I want to kind of move with Sakina, I want you to talk about how Bosch has leveraged volunteering as a part of its leadership development program. Aware of some of your efforts over there. Sakina, can't hear you. Uh, no, we still can't hear you, though you don't seem to be on mute, but we can't hear you. Okay. Maybe if you can try and log out or log back in because I'm not sure what's happened over here. Meanwhile, maybe I can just take the next question to the next speaker. Yeah. Uh, Okay, so Abhishek, let me move to you then. I'm aware that the Reliance Group again is a very large group. Things work only at scale, but it's also a very widespread group. And you've like you said, you've moved from a tech company to the Reliance Group. And Reliance Group has both tech industries plus so many others as well. So how do you look at, volunteering being managed between different kind of companies, different kind of industries within the same group?
Yeah. So, am I audible, Chala? Just to confirm. Yeah. Okay. Great. So,
Yes,
I think
yes, yes, you are.
yes. So we at Reliance, Shalab, focus on, we have a philosophy of we care, right? We care for the planet, we care for the communities. And this is the same philosophy which runs across the group in all our businesses, all our interactions. So, of course, volunteering and doing something for the country, for India, development of India is key aspect of it. Now, I was actually, reading a study just last week, Shalab, where it says that almost there is a funding gap of at least $100 billion in India to achieve its sustainable development goals by 2030. Now, various corporates, all corporates, including governments, is of course doing their bit. But I truly believe that the gap which is there is too much to fulfill by any sector, any one particular company or multiple companies together. So that's why I truly believe that volunteers can fill that gap in a much more meaningful way. So that is where we look at Reliance are looking at volunteers as the change makers, as the people who are on the ground and trying to address these problems which are there in the community. So we do this in three different methods. As you said, it is a very diverse group, and we need to start to cater to all different varied skill sets, varied schedules of people, and things like that. So we do this in three different ways. Or three different program offerings. First is what we call as the RIL campaigns, where we these are Reliance wide, all companies put together, they join together to execute some very focused interventions which can be done by contributing time one at a time, basically, right? So that's the whole idea, that we do a large campaigns, all company employees come together and do something on a single day, and all of them go towards a single goal per se. So just for example, last year we did about what we call as a Swachhta Hi Seva campaign, in which we had lot many people across thousands of cities joining together and doing something for the cleanliness of of the country. The next one is what we call as the Level Up project. This is on using our employees' skills to build the capacity of our partners. Reliance Foundation works with so many partners across the country. All of them, of course, there is funding happening, but they expect, or we also think that there is a need to build their capacity, given that they are not, most of them traditionally are not trained on various technologies, stuff, and formally trained on those things. So that's where we feel that the skills of our employees can be used. So we offer them the time which is dedicated towards building their skill sets per se. And then third one is what we call as rooted project. Perhaps we'll talk about that in our subsequent questions. But it is about empowering our employees to be the change makers in their communities. So how can we give that agency to them and build the capacity so that they can start contributing in their local neighborhoods per se, Shalabh. So that's how we are looking at it at this moment. And over to you.
Okay, okay. Thanks. Sakina, can you unmute yourself? And I hope it is working all right now. Could you just say anything? No, we still can't hear you. Um, the tech team, if you could try and see to unmute and mute again. Not sure what is happening over here. Sakina, try again saying something, please. No, we can't. We can't hear you.
She's unmuted at our end here.
Okay, okay. Sakina, we're not sure. It seems that, because it shows unmute at our end over here. So it's definitely, not definitely, likely at your end. Uh, okay. So I'll continue moving through the next one then. So Padma, I want to come back to you, and you spoke about about the deep volunteering. You spoke about how it is very well, the different kind of volunteering that has been done, and how the kind of response that you've got from people. But even when you look at an HR leader, um, are there any clear goals that you have set out or that have been set out for you when you look at a program like this or any volunteering program?
Goal in the sense, we don't, volunteering is something which the very name suggests volunteer. So you really cannot force people to volunteer. So we do not have goals as such, but making
Mm.
sure that, people get an opportunity to volunteer, and the
Yeah.
people who volunteer are celebrated. So, for example, for the deep volunteering, we had Mrs. Rajshri Birla come and felicitate the people who, spent a lot of time in volunteering, right? So,
Mm.
as far as that is concerned, we are not working towards a goal, but making sure that we have the right kind of projects which are curated for them and they are able to work on the
Okay.
projects, and also, ensuring that nobody is posting at that point of time. That was one piece which was very critical. We told, Aarti from I Volunteer team, saying that please take feedback from the NGOs that our teams are really focused on doing the work for the NGO, and don't consider it as a holiday, right? I come and go when I want to. That is one piece. But there is one area where we have set it as a goal. This is for our new joinees whom we hire as the other in the Aditya Villa Group leadership program. Just like TAS, Gauri, that Tata Group has, we have the ABG program. So in the
Mhm.
ABG program, they go for 2 weeks of volunteering to remote place, and they are assessed on how well they have contributed to it, and it comes back to their performance rating as well, right? So there we have a goal that and it's also a way for us to look at whether we have identified the right candidates, pick the right candidates as ABGLPs, because ABGLPs are typically the people who are on fast track. So if somebody is changing roles, getting a career growth at X rate, ABGLPs will get it at X multiplied by 2. And one of the most important things for ABG, which is critical for ABG leaders, is empathy, right? I think we all spoke about it. And one of the ways, empathy comes across is also through volunteering. So that is where we very clearly measure, as to how are these people, how have they contributed, what are the shifts that we are seeing. And wherever we see that, there are people, who tend to fall ill. Volunteering period, those 2 weeks, they have fallen ill. So we say that, fine, you have fallen ill, quite possible that, you really fell ill. They get another opportunity to go back and contribute. So there we have a goal of 100% participation, and but in others we really haven't put a goal. So would love to hear from others how they are measuring. Not sure if I answered your question, but yeah.
Thanks. So thanks, Padma. I wanted to hear about, not necessarily specific goals, but about the outcome. What do you expect? And you mentioned, for example, empathy is something that
Absolutely. And of
as
course,
a common
leadership
factor that everyone speaks
development.
about.
And of
Um,
course, leadership development. We also have
yes.
it in all
Yeah.
our important leadership development programs. People have to go back and, contribute to the society. Could be an orphanage, could be an old age home, wherever. But they spend time for 2, 3 days. But I would still say 2, 3 days is very different from 3 weeks, because people had to stay in those places, not so nice locations. People are used to staying in at least 4-star hotels, and here they went and stayed in a small town in, not so clean hotels. And that is a big thing, versus I attend a leadership program and I stay at my home, comfort of my home, go there, do something, come back to my home. So that's the measure that we had.
True. Yes. Sakina, you're back. So I want to not lose
Yeah,
time
can you
and kind of,
hear me
come
now?
back to the question that we had.
Now I can't hear
Very well.
Shalab in between. Is it me only? Is
So
everyone not
yeah, I
able to?
wanted to understand from you about the leadership programs and the role of volunteering.
Yeah. See, in Bosch, a couple of years back, we started the intervention, maybe inclusion of social engagement for leadership, future leaders, uh, at least a 30-hour program through their 1 year leadership journey. It was an extension of what they were being taught and how they're being prepared to be future leaders and what all they need to know in terms of uh, their role that they're going to play and what is it that how they will become a motivating factor for the teams that will eventually report to them or the organization that they represent. So the program started with introducing them to the whole concept of knowing that it is not that we are telling them or asking them they have to give back to the society. We are saying, what is it that you take back from the society when you are engaged in a certain intervention? Uh, 30 hours being just the minimum, you can go beyond that as well. But what is it that's expected out of that intervention or that engagement? The expectation was for us to make them learn rather than the other way around, which normally we do with the volunteering of with employees. So it was what do you expect to learn? It is how can you do more in little? What is the empathy that you should have? How do I connecting of a business with the society is important. What is it bringing on the board for you, and how do you make sure that there are certain innovations and experiences that you can actually come and replicate in your business? So I think there is a lot of ideas that were provided. They were connected not only on the basis of interest that they have, but they were connected based on what their role is going to be within the organization in future. Many of them have gone beyond 30 hours. Some of them are still connected with the non-profit organizations that they were assigned to, and they are themselves helping them in multiple ways, building their capacities, raising funds for them. And also what helped us was that how leadership got involved in this whole thing. See, Bosch India Foundation has the trust group of trustees who are leading it. The trustees, each one of them represent one legal entity of Bosch in India. So Bosch India is a group which has 15 legal entities, and we have around 5 trustees who represent the top 5 companies in Bosch India Foundation. Every quarter, the foundation meeting happens in the field. First half, we go to the field, we show them the projects that are running, and then the second half, the meeting, which is the formal setup, happens in the meeting. These trustees and also our CSR, we have a second level of below the board. We have another management governance level, which is called CSR Steering Committee, and the managing director of Bosch Limited and the president of Bosch Group of India is a part of that committee besides other leadership team members. And there's a social emotion exercise that is done with them where they take their time of 4 to 5 days. Imagine managing directors able to give 4 5 days for something like this, and they go for social immersion programs, and they're taken to the deep forest, and they totally what we say we just mentioned that They forget about the hotels that they're used to while traveling. They stayed in huts, and I still remember incidents where they slept on charpais with pink mosquito net around it, and they slept. So I think they are attuned to that. They know and they accept it. They really like that whole concept of what happens on the ground rather than sitting in AC offices and we deciding the 1 year future of CSR or foundation, what is going to happen, who's going to invest where, without really having been in touch with the reality on the ground. So that is the beauty of the engagement of the leadership with the cause, so that they help understand why we are doing what we are doing in the social engagement space. And the second, why is it important for everybody, for employees, especially the leaders who are going to lead the company in future, to be engaged constantly with such interventions and initiatives, especially with the last mile, who may not be your customers, who would never become your customers, but they would definitely be a very important part of your value chain.
Mhm. Yeah. Thanks, thanks, Akina. So I want to take this opportunity. I am aware that we are at 250. We've just passed 250 right now. So I'm going to ask everyone to um post their questions on the chat box or raise your hand so that we know there are questions coming up. Um, but let me continue with the discussion meanwhile over here. So Sakina, thanks for kind of, sharing that bit about the corporate leaders actually taking that kind of an interest, keen interest in the experiences gaining from it. So I want to generalize this a little bit and understand, about the generic interest that businesses take in volunteering. So, let me talk about, let's say the Tata Group. So Gauri, there are so many different companies which are there. And you obviously were at a group level. You are dependent on the independent companies or the business leader of those companies to support any kind of volunteering initiatives. What kind of a response do you get? How do you make sure they are keenly interested? And I want to then that same question with Abhishek, you as well within Reliance, again, a motley group of companies out there. So yeah, Gauri, to you first.
That's a great question. Great question, Shalab. And um, to add to the complexity of what you said, that there are many companies, one can also assume that each company would be at a very different stage, of their volunteering journey. So apart from their business context and, local reality and, profitability scenarios and, so on and so forth. But I think for us at the Tata Group, and I don't want to sound like a, stuck record, but at the end of the day, the common legacy is a binding factor, that even today it is that common purpose that unites, and it doesn't matter whether it's a legacy organization like a steel or a motors, or a relatively newer organization like, let's say, a big basket or a Tata Digital. The one of the first few things that we feel people feel proud about when they join the group is this community element. But having said that, on a more operational level, the group is united through something that we refer to as the volunteering Spock cadre. Okay, so we have about 600 volunteering leaders, champions from across the group, who are part of this cadre. They are the ones who champion volunteering. They are the ones who curate programs. They are the ones who look at issues around scale and engagement and so on and so forth. And given that we have the structure in place, at least from the group center perspective, we've been able to work very closely with this cadre to see how, the leadership aspirations or what we want to achieve together is cascaded uniformly across different group companies. And there, I think our role as, Tata Sustainability Group sitting at the group center is to, make sure that we support them in their capacity building. We make sure that we support them in their access that they have to resources, knowledge pieces, tools. We support them by providing them platforms where they can come together to just for cross sharing and learning. And you can only imagine the richness of those discussions, given the diversity that they belong to. And we've seen this network sort of coming closer as having sort of created the magic, or having played a very pivotal role in uniformly sort of taking the group forward on the volunteering front. And we're very happy and proud of this cadre, and I think that's where really the magic happens.
Okay, thanks. Abhishek, before I come to you, there's a question that has come in, and so I'll try and do the questions as well. So this is, how can we initiate volunteering, and what are the ways to measure activities at the beginner level? This question is from Vikas Deshmukh. I'll repeat this again, and any of the panelists, if they want to take it, you can. How can we initiate volunteering, and what are the ways to measure activities at the beginner level? Does anybody want to have a go at this? How can we initiate volunteering within our company? Or I can.
Go ahead, Sakina.
Yeah. For me, I think it's very simple. You cannot initiate volunteering unless you know what is the interest that they are having. So you have to run surveys within the organization to understand what does volunteering mean for that person. It can be as simple as going to a dog shelter and cleaning it and staying and spending time with the rescue dogs there, or it can be going to elderly homes. It totally depends on the individual's interest. Based on that, you should design your programs. Gradually, when the volunteer starts working with you, their thought about volunteering changed completely, and that's what we have seen live. What they started thinking that there is a pet cause or cause that they're emotional about, it automatically changed because they realize they have so much of potential to give back to multiple opportunities of volunteering, that almost everything is okay for them. They will want to get into everything that you have. So for me, it's very simple. Please run surveys. Make sure that you know the pulse of the organization. That means the employees. Somebody would want to say that I will spend every Saturday and Sundays. When we did an exercise, it was very simple. 82% of the people said, I want to contribute my Saturdays and Sundays towards volunteering. And we were like, nobody would want to do it. They would say that you please give us some day in, weekdays, and we will do it. But it was amazing when you have that kind of a response that, okay, you really are ready to contribute your own personal time for something like this. So you'll have a lot more surprises once you start doing it. When it comes to measurement of those, you measure them like you measure any of your CSR programs. I don't see a reason why we should not be measuring. We should record everything, the feedback that comes in, report every initiative, making sure that they know what difference they are making. Because if you don't do it, then their volunteering is not going to have a ripple effect. Somebody else will not know what his colleagues volunteering efforts and initiatives have created for somebody out in the society. It can be one single person, a child, it doesn't matter. But that intervention of that person has made a difference to someone outside. So we do have a methodology within Bosch to find out the impact and also share the impact with a larger audience. That what had happened in the say last year, we have a event called Social Engagement Thankathon, where we actually appreciate the full year what happened. We appreciate and recognize volunteers who have gone beyond uh, their actual means of spending time on volunteering, and who have really shown the purpose driven attitude. And we do recognize, and we also show what is the collective impact that it has created on institutions that they were engaged with during the year.
Thanks, Sakina. Gauri, you wanted to add to that?
So just to add on, I completely agree with Sakina that, logically that would be the first step to do. We've had a very, odd experience with trying to capture people's aspirations. And I think it's also to do with how many emails hit our inbox and how many surveys we respond to. And I'm sure they want to, but we get a very, very poor response, which almost makes us believe that it is not representative for the group and the numbers that we want. So our thought has only been this, that somewhere given the number of priorities that all of us have as individuals and professionals, it's just been as simple as keeping volunteering, whether it's information, whether it's about an event, whether it's about some DIY activities, just putting that information out there in the ecosystem, in the universe, for our employees to just be able to see. And I think that itself has worked some magic. People have seen it, been inspired by it, and then the ones who are regulars and any which way do it, come in to give full support. But what it has done is brought in a lot of slightly more apprehensive colleagues who perhaps were not sure whether this was for them, but because it was there, they said, okay, let's take a look at it and let's give it a shot. So I just wanted to share that and add that, Shala.
Thanks, Gauri. We also totally believe that it's important to get a pulse check. And it's not just about asking what do you want to do, but also about what do you intend to gain from it. People will not automatically say. We sometimes have to kind of, nudge them a little, prick them a little to say, "Ki bhai, kya chahiye?" What do you? And a lot of times, even the business leaders, we need to ask that what do you expect to gain from it? Why are you thinking of organizing this? I think some bit of a honest conversation over there helps us understand what's there in the mind. And at iVolunteer, we truly believe that the biggest challenge in volunteering is the mismatching of expectations, which is where volunteering does fail a lot of times. But that failure is largely because of a mismatching of expectations rather than anything else. So Abhishek, you've been waiting to respond to that particular question about, what different levers do you move when talking to different business leaders of different kind of, industries or entities within a group?
Yeah, so I think within the group, that Reliance being one of the largest conglomerates, and all different types of companies work here. There is a manufacturing vertical, there is a telecom vertical, there's a retail vertical. Now each one of them, it is, what I've seen is that the volunteering across them is very industry driven, right? So if it is manufacturing company, for example, we have our hydrocarbon business, which is people work in plant sites and they live in townships nearby. So there is a high degree of involvement from in and around the plant sites, right? So, and then there is also, because the families live together around the site, there is a lot of family involvement. So this is something which I've seen. So when we create opportunities for them, and when the opportunities come there, we see a high percentage of families members being involved in the initiatives there. So opportunities are aligned accordingly. Whereas if you look at the retail business, then I mean, unlike the typical IT function where large proportion of the employees are sitting in a limited number of cities, retail is reverse of that, where small number of people are in thousands of cities per se. So then their the approach changes there in terms of what can be done, which is easy to do, which is can be replicated by multiple people at the same time, and can also be directed towards a common goal. So that is again which we when offering to retail as well as for geo, we look at those kinds of programs. Now just wanted to add on to that you can see that this is like we are more than 500,000 people working in the company, and to cater to all kinds of things, to create different type of opportunities becomes very very mind boggling sometimes, right? So what that's where we started. I was alluding to this program called Rooted earlier in the conversation, Shalabh, where we have we really think that each and every employee can become a real change maker in their communities, right? One way it's that to create one program and have employees travel to many places and do it there. That is one type, but I think more effective method is that can we give them option to do something in and around where they live, right? So that's where we are working towards a program. We're piloting this setup, and it has been, the initial responses have been very very encouraging, where volunteers are themselves identifying partner organizations, schools, NGOs in their vicinity. They are coming up, they're interviewing them and what kind of needs they have, and then they're bringing it to our notice, and then we are trying to build the capacity of their volunteers on what kind of questions you can ask, what kind of support we can provide and helping them. So it's like becomes a very co-creation kind of a model. I truly believe that it will sustain. We just last month we ran a program where two volunteers actually identified a school which has more than 4,000 children, and we ran a very beautiful program there where two volunteers actually did a program where 400 volunteers gathered in the school. So from two volunteers to 400 volunteers to 4,000 people, right? So I think this is the kind of movement which we feel in a large organization like ours can help and also assist the country in a longer run.
Okay. Thanks, Abhishek. So there's a question that is coming to me. This is about more focus on skills-based volunteering. What has your experience or learnings been around skills-based volunteering? And how can we scale? How can we start scaling? Because obviously that's the biggest question when it comes to skills-based volunteering. Anybody wants to have a go at it?
So maybe I'll
Yes.
try, Shalab. The
Yes.
first part of the question made me smile. The second one made me worry a little bit. But I think from a point of view of an avenue to volunteer, I think there just could not be a better fit than skill-based volunteering, because for all four companies that I hear, that are represented here, I think they have the best talent that perhaps the country has. And on the other side, we know that, and I also come from the NGO background before I started my career as a CSR professional, and I know what the reality is for not-for-profits, the challenges they face in terms of resources, and how having very very sort of conscientious, serious, committed volunteers coming in to fill certain gaps really sort of helps them propel in the right direction, of working with the community. So for us at the Tata Group, I think skill-based volunteering is a big agenda. We're very passionate about it. And for us, it's almost synonymous to impact volunteering. So, while you might have a beach cleanup, in Mumbai, and unfortunately, the very next morning, if you go, there's a possibility you're going to find it dirty, once again. Whereas for impact volunteering, the beauty is, or skill-based volunteering, the beauty is that, you mentor a child, or you work on HR policies of a particular NGO, or you help them with a communication strategy. What continues to happen after you stop volunteering is a phenomenal impact. On the second question that I was a little more worried about was the scale bit of it. So honestly, coming back to Sakina's point on, understanding aspirations and, it being a matching problem, a problem of matching demand and supply. I think that's really, the one that we need to crack, because in terms of the need for skill-based volunteering, it is very big. The question is, how do we get the kind of projects out there that will appeal to our volunteers? And that's the question that we are really focused on solving at the group.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. So I want to just add to that bit over here. So scale obviously remains a challenge in skills-based volunteering, and one of the attempts that we had early on with this. The other problem also with skills-based volunteering is, and general volunteering is, that people sign up and projects don't get initiated or they don't get completed. Now for completion, I think there's a lot of things that have been done. Each company has a different way of motivating volunteers. Somewhere it is the senior management that is able to kind of when you bring volunteers in light or face to face with the senior management, they get more inspired. Some other place it's about some other form of recognition that happens. So what we did, and this was with the Aditya Birla, one of the Aditya Birla Group companies long back. This is pre-COVID time in terms of scale. Or we did something called as a skills-based marathon. One day, four different cities, so Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, four different cities, 20 NGOs, and we took two projects from each NGO. So something like 60 different projects that were done, and some 80-85 volunteers that completed those projects. The idea was twofold. One is to experiment at the scale bit. How can you actually get a larger number of people doing it? The second thing was actually how do you retain the attention and motivation of people. If you give them small winnable things which is doable in a single day, more people come back and say, "Arey, maza aaya." this was doable. What can I do? Can I do it again? And what more can I do? And that's when we bring that. So if we make it more bite-sized, then probably scale happens. The winnability factor is higher, and therefore people can sign up for longer term things. But I also want to go back to again what Gauri mentioned and what Sakina was also indicating earlier is about the matching. While everyone, all of us know that there's a huge gap when it comes to the non-profit sector in terms of the skills that they need, when it comes to actually profiling or scoping the volunteering projects, that's a big challenge. And I really believe, talking from my generally volunteering experience, we also need to invest in the capacity of the non-profits or the organizations receiving volunteers to be able to manage them better, to gain from them better, to give them a better experience that in turn will help us as organizations that are sending volunteers or supporting volunteers to go and volunteer out there. And a lot of times I think what we believe is that, projects will be there, we can send our volunteers and volunteering can happen. Actually, it doesn't happen a lot like that. So even investing in that, in scoping and in supporting non-profit takes a lot of time. Okay, we are at 4 minutes short of 3:15, so I'm going to end at 3:15 for sure. So I'm going to give an opportunity for each of you to, any one statement that you want to make before we end the group over here. Any one line that you want to leave behind, any learning, anything that you want to commit to doing next, anything that you're looking forward to, anything that's on your mind.
I think my mind when it comes to the word volunteering is that don't leave it on CSR to deliver it for the organization. It has to be delivered as a part of the business. It is a must for the business, and it will grow, and the tremendous change that you will see within the organization if you make it part of the business. While you do employee engagement, please ensure that this becomes a very important part of employees' engagement within the business, not outside the business. So I hope that happens.
Thank you.
Totally agree. I think totally agree with what Sakina is saying, and that's where I guess for ABG we brought in non-CSR people. The CSR folks started wondering why is HR getting into it, because for us it's a separate thing, but it's about employees really giving back, and that's what makes a big difference.
Thanks, Padma.
Yeah, I think at Reliance, again, we believe that the employees are the biggest asset. And again, as I alluded before, it is important that we give them the opportunity for their own well-being. Everybody wants to give back, and it's an imperative for the organization to provide an avenue so that they can exercise their franchise of giving back to the community. So very happy that more and more corporates are nowadays coming forward and facilitating this. Yeah.
Thanks, Abhishek.
The final word is mine, Shala. But for me, volunteering, I think like CSR, you have we've seen what change 75,000 crores being invested, into community projects has brought on the Indian landscape over the last decade or so. And I think with volunteering, it's the same potential. So, we have our national priority areas cut out for us. We have our SDGs right out there. We know where we are. And I think if we want to really fast track, our work, on some of these areas, the combined power of employees and individuals is what will be the game changer. So I just see it as a huge potential.
Thank you, Gauri. And I do get to say a word at least as well. Yeah. So I feel that, volunteering also needs that patient capital. Uh, it requires a lot of investment, and it takes a lot of time for people to change and for them to deliver something after they've kind of changed. So we need to invest in giving people that experience, in creating that environment, in building the capacity of the nonprofits and the people who are engaged in enabling such people. It's only then we'll see results, and the results are for everyone. It will be for the company, for the volunteer, and for the community. So thank you. Thanks, Gauri. Thanks, Padma. Thanks, Akina. Thanks, Abhishek, for this
Thank you.
wonderful time. We went over the board, but I hope it was good for all. Thank you on behalf of the CII for helping organize this, and also on behalf of I Volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks,
you.
Sarah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye bye.